संस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये. So we start now. So where are we? So we after the Pandavas they had gone to Ekachakra town after the house of Lac had been burned down. Duryodhana had tried to get them killed. They had gone to house of Lac, and then after that they themselves burnt it down and went incognito. Then Vyasa had come and had guided them to Ekachakra town, where there was the episode of the great demon Bakasura, and Bhima killed him, and Vyasa had told them that they should stay there till he comes and he'll tell them to stay there for a month, kind of thing. So they were staying there, and at that time, briefly we saw last time that there's a Brahmana who came visiting them. None of them knew that these are Pandavas. For all practical purposes, they were a Brahmana family which had taken refuge in the house of this Purohita. So that's how they were. So the Brahmana had come, was chatting with them, and had mentioned to them that, listen, there is in Panchala town, there is this Swayamvaram. So there is a Swayamvara happening there, and it explained all about it, and then had told them that, listen, the prince and the princess of Panchala, they have a very divine origin. They are not like you and me, kind of thing, and they had been born. So they had known how, etc. And then he had told them the story of how Draupadi was born, how Drishtabdumna was born, what was the story behind that, and all of that. So it was very fascinating for the Pandavas to hear that. And that Brahmana had said, listen, I am going there, you can come with me. And everybody is going there to Panchala. And 75 days from now, the Swayamvara is there. It is going to be held on the month of Posha, Shukla Paksha Ekadashi. So we can all go there, if you are interested, kind of thing. Kunti had said, I will tell you. And she had checked with Yudhishthira. Yudhishthira said we should also discuss with the younger brothers, etc. They had all discussed, and she said, yeah, I think it is time. And then Vyasa had landed up thereafter. And I had also told them that, listen, there is this Swayamvara happening in Panchala Desha, and you must go there. And I would like you to win the hand of the princess. As such, he is directing this entire epic, so to say. And he also tells them briefly the background of the previous birth of Draupadi, which we didn't include in our previous class, but he tells them briefly. It's like this: she was in her previous birth a very, very beautiful, very, very good, very cultured, very good person. Except that what can you do because of Daiva Anugraham, whatever was the issue, the destiny was not with her, so she couldn't get married in her previous birth. You might have everything, but the line in your hand is not there. It's not there. I mean, what can you do? And she didn't have it. But she was not somebody who was just going to say, I don't have, the destiny is not there. So she did terrific tapasya. And she did terrific tapasya, and she pleased Lord Shiva. Lord Shiva gave her darshana, and he asked her, what boon do you want? And such was her angst inside her that she said that I want a good husband. Not just once, she repeated it some 5 times. And so Shiva said, good for you, you will get 5 husbands. So she said, but I want only one. She said, but you said Patim Dehi 5 times. So don't worry, not this birth, next birth you will have, and 5 Bharatavamsha of Bharatavamsha, good, excellent people, etc. Then he had gone. So that background also he briefly tells, Vyasa tells to Kunti and to the Pandavas, and so they then set off, and lakhs of people are going towards the Panchala Desha, because Swayamvara is a big deal. It's the kings, the Panchala Desha's sole princess, the most beautiful Draupadi is going to marry somebody of her choice, and all the kings of the world will be are free to come and invited, and they will all be coming. So it's going to be a spectacle par excellence. And during the Swayamvara, of course, other than the great entertainment, etc., it's a huge economic activity. So people from It's a major mela. I mean, it's not an ordinary. We are talking about lakhs and lakhs and lakhs of people coming from all over the land. So everybody comes, including the the natas, the nartakas, the vaitalikas. So the theatre people, the dancers, the musicians, the acrobats, the circus people, all the cooks, and all of them will come because it's going to be like that. So all of them come and all of them are moving towards that, etc. And in that really huge crowd, these Pandavas also in totally disguised. They are also proceeding towards that place. They are on the way, and they reach there, and we're still in the rewind, so to say, and they take refuge in a potter's house. So there's a potter in their house, one old Brahmin widow with her 5 sons. They take refuge in that house, and they are there, and they reach in time, say a fortnight before that exact date of the Swayamvara. So within 16th day, so to say, the Swayamvara is there, and massive arrangements have been made, and there's a huge stadium that's been constructed for that purpose, and that stadium is of the shape of a porpoise, a huge porpoise, and it's filled with today cricket, etc. in Calcutta, 50,000-60,000 people can watch a test match. This was much bigger. This was huge. I mean, you had the whole kingdom had come to watch. What a deal! What a thing to watch! And every king from everywhere, every prince, and imagine the organization and the arrangement that needs to be done. Just to get 4 important people together is such a big deal. You don't know whom will go to first, which chair, who will take what objection. Big problem. Which food to give whom. Even in your own house, somebody likes this, somebody likes that, somebody likes that. So you have to make 3 different dishes. It's all a problem. Imagine kings. And with their ego and their all of that, have all got to be taken care of. Massive arrangements Panchala king has done. And why is the Panchala king doing all this in the first place? Because he has a keen interest that Draupadi get married to Arjuna. But the news is that they have all been killed in the house of Lakh. So his Purohita says, my signs indicate to me, my heart tells me they're not dead. And if they're not dead, the one way to get them is to organize a Swayamvara. Wherever they are, they will also come. All the kings will come. It is not possible that they will not come. So that he has organized that Swayamvara with that in mind. Of course, not everybody knows about it. As far as the world is concerned, there's a Swayamvara. So beautiful. So everybody is going there. Paushamasa, Ekadashi, Shukla Paksha, Revati Nakshatra. So all of that combination together, Paushamasa, which is around December, January is the month actually. Paush, what we call as a Margari here, is called the Paush there. So the Paush Mas, etc. So that's all arranged. So it's going to happen. So these people are there, and on the day arrives, and everybody is calm. The kings have been seated, and there are lounge. It's a beautiful description of the whole place. The lounge chairs have been put and all that for all the kings and all of that. And people, the mansions have been lit, and they're all white marble mansions around the stadium in the Panchala, and they had golden curtains, especially for the occasion put, and they are encrusted with diamonds and rubies and lapis lazuli, etc. and the walls. It's beautiful. That place is beautiful, lit up and all that. It's fantastic, that place. And so they're there, and everybody is sitting, and along with there's a separate enclosure for the kings and all that. There's a separate enclosure for Purohitas and the Brahmins. So in that Purohitas and Brahmins, etc., these Pandavas are sitting there quietly. The kings from all over the land are sitting there. The people, everything. It's a gala occasion. There's all this havan and homam, etc. is done. And last time we saw how the chief priest, an aged man, is conducting the homam of that place, and then the princess of the land, the most beautiful, the world's most beautiful princess, Draupadi, is led by her hand. She's just stepping into the stadium. Her brother Drishtadyumna is bringing her, and the chief priest waves all the noise to silence with one wave of his hand. The band baja that was going on, the music that was being all the drums and the music and all the fanfare that was going on is stopped by him with a wave of his hand, and then she steps in, and then natural silence takes over the whole stadium because all of them are looking at Draupadi. Now, not a breath leaves the king. They are looking, my God. My God. She's stepping in with a golden garland in her hand. The most beautiful Draupadi. Vyasa goes overboard describing her. She's for the occasion. She's the queen. And the whole 1 lakh and 2 lakh or 3 lakh, whatever people have come also, come only to see the princess. You can't see the princess normally. But on certain occasion, you have the license to see the princess. One is a Swayamvara. So on the Swayamvara of the princess, anyone can come and see her. There is no bar. Oh, they all come, and it's a fantastic occasion. And the great Dhristadyumna, the brother, he is such a great man. He himself, Dhristadyumna, his name is Dhristadyumna. He comes and he announces the competition to the whole assembled kings, and the loud voice, sounding like the thunder, he has announced. There's right in the center of that stadium, he has made the place where the competition is to take place, and the most handsome, the most valorous, the greatest of kings will have to prove and win her hand by, and that competition, the well-known, which all of you know. So there is, and yet you may not know, it's a beautiful arrangement. So there's a huge, there's this big, little pond of water, so to say, and right above that is set up the target, and the target is there is a combination. There is a stationary fish-shaped object, and below that there is a spinning circle on which another fish has been placed, which will be circling, and that circle will have a hole in between as well. It will be circling, and above that there is a stationary fish. It's not very clear that it's absolutely stationary or whether it can swing like a pendulum. It's not very clear. It may be stationary, it may not be, but it's there. And so the competition is, and there's a huge bow that's kept next to that pool of water. There's a bow and 5 arrows. They've been kept there, and Dhristadyumna has announced that the king who wishes to win the hand of my sister, he will come, he will pick up this bow, he will string it and use with these 5 arrows, up to maximum 5 arrows alone. You can use, he cannot look at that target, he has to look at the pool, see the reflection, and shoot at the target, and the arrow has to go through the eye of the rotating fish and go hit the eye of the fish above. And he who can do that wins. And I promise you that, he says, he announces to the world, he who does this will have the hand of my sister. This has been said, and they're all looking at it, and all Kshatriyas, all kings, Bhumipalas, they're drooling. Oh boy, kind of thing. They're all for the manner born. This is it. I mean, this is the thing they live for. And look at the prize. And every one of them is wanting that prize. So there it is. So they're all there, and then he's going around. First, he's going to introduce her. He's going to tell. He takes her by hand around the stadium where the king's enclosure, etc., are pointing them out. So this is he. This is he. This is he. So she has to know who is who as well. So the Duryodhana has come with all his 99 plus 1 brother. So this is King Duryodhana of Hastinapura. This is his, this is Durmukha, Dushprashna, Vimimchati, Vikarna, Dushasana, this is Yuyutsu, etc. He introduces all of them shows them to her. Then he says, this is Karna. The king of Anga, Karna is there. This is Jayadratha. Jayadratha is this brother-in-law of Duryodhana, the king of Sindh. He's there. This is Shishupala. Oh my God, Shishupala, Chediraja. And then the great king Jarasandha, he is there. So all of the Asankhya Kshatriya Shiromani Bhumipalas are there. Enormous number. We're talking about hundreds and hundreds of kings from all over the land have landed up. And we saw last time It all the way from Cambodia Desha. Cambodia Desha, one is Kampuchea, which is Cambodia, and there's another Cambodia Desha in Afghanistan side as well. So right from the east and then right up to Afghanistan and beyond, even to Greece, Yavana Desha, including that, and right on to the south from Pandya Desha, kings have come. Kings have come from everywhere to that place. They listed all the countries that they have come from, the princes. And there's no age bar. Huh? This is a valor. Huh? There's no age bar. Old kings have come. Oh, try karenge. They're all, why not? This is a competition. What's the big deal? If they're going to hit the target, they get the queen, they get the princess. There it is. There's nothing, no big deal. So they all come. Maybe we'll get a chance. So they come from all over the place. And they've all come. It's a Swayamvara, Baba. Bhishma came and took those 3 girls and went at that time. He had white hair. He did it. However, it was his brother. That's a different thing. So there they were, and they had all come, and all the and the Pandya king had come, the Yavana, the Greek, all of them had come. And also in that crowd, the Vishnuvamshis had come. There was Akrura had come, Uddhava had come, Kritavarma had come, Satyaki had come, Sankarshana had come, Pradyumna had come, Aniruddha had come, and he who knows by the name Vasudeva, he had come. Bhagavan Sri Krishna. They are all there in the Swayamvara. This is his entry into Mahabharata. The Swayamvara of his namesake, Krishna. He is a Krishna with an A, she is a Krishna with 2 A's. He is Krishna, she is Krishna. So we take off from there today. So all the kings and the princes, they're all there. It's going to start. They're all starting to push each other. And they're all jealous. They're all looking at each other's spite, actually. And each of them want to take up the challenge. Each of them has come fully decked, all jewels and crown and this and that. When Draupadi looks, Kanya varete rupam. So you have to look your best. So they are looking their absolute best and all that, and crown and jewels and dress and all that. What is it? That's the verse. I think all of you would have heard of it. Kanya varete rupam mata vittam pita shutam bandhava kulamichanti mishthanna mitare jana. When a marriage is to be fixed, what does the girl look for? She looks for good looks. The groom should be good looking. So when the parents are looking for a boy for the girl's main point is he should be good looking. This is the main thing according to this verse. Rest and all, she is not that important. She should be good looking. The girl's mother says, you should come from a wealthy family. Mata vittam. Here, take care of my daughter. She's grown up in luxury. She's never known even, never got nothing. So 3 cars have to be standing outside. Mata vittam. Pita shutam. Oh, what has he studied tomorrow? He should be able to, Shutam. He has to be well studied and all that. Bandhavaha kulamichanti. The brothers and all will say, that family should be such that our status, etc. should not be, he is well read and also wealthy and all that, good looking also, but not from the kind of family that we want and all that. So the brothers are, sisters, etc. They are particular about that. The rest of the people around there, who is the cook in that wedding, You should have good food, mishthanam. So this is important. So this is the way. Right now, the kings are very clear that Draupadi, she will naturally, she's the most beautiful girl in the world. She'll look for the most beautiful, handsome man in the world. So they all come absolutely. Each of them is a king, and you don't become a king without having the lakshanas of a king. All the good quality, all the good signs will be there, present in them. So they all come. They're all proud of their looks. They're all proud of their families, their family line, lineage. They're all proud of their culture. They're all proud of their wealth, the money that they have, and they're all proud of their youth, including the old people. Nobody considers themselves old. Huh? Mind is never old. Everybody is proud of their youth, and they were all like elephants in rut. All of them were like elephants in rut, with the elephants with that musk oozing down on that side and all that stuff, that kind of thing. And And they looked at each other with absolute rivalry and jealousy, etc. They wanted to be there picking up the bow before the other guy did, because who knows, some fellow might shoot it down. So all that was going on, and Vyasa says they were rooting fully with each of them was caught by Kama. Looking at Draupadi, there's not one of these fellows who was not drooling in their mind. He was looking at there, etc., saying, Krishna shall be mine, they were saying, each one of them. Each of them was thinking, she is going to be mine, etc. And all their minds was fixed on Draupadi. Every single one of them fixed on Draupadi. And meanwhile, the Devatas all started assembling in the sky. How many times Devatas always assemble in the sky when there's some fantastic spectacle going to happen on the earth. For example, the Rama Ravana Yuddham. They'll come. They'll watch from the sky. So this Draupadi Swayamvaram, they'll watch. They'll watch from the sky. Like Sita Rama wedding, they'll watch. They will come in various disguises and watch. Shiva himself came, they say, to watch the wedding of Rama and Sita. So that way, so they came, and beautifully Vyasa says in Bharatam that all the Devatas were led in front by the leading aircraft, Vimanas, where one was Yamaraja and one was Kubera. They were leading, and then behind them all the Devatas came. And I thought it was very interesting that the lead was Yamaraja and Kubera. So one is wealth and one is death. So between them, they can get anybody. Nothing can stop them. You either take your wealth or you die. So they go. So they are all there in the skies, and they are watching, and the great this thing is about to start. The great Swayamvara is about to start, and Lord Sri Krishna, Vasudeva, he and his associates, the Vishnuvamshis, he were the only ones who were sitting very calmly. They are sitting very calmly in their seats and just watching. Everybody was watching only Draupadi. Krishna was watching them. He was watching around. He was watching around, and he gazed around the stadium, and he looked, and he was looking at this stand where the Brahmins were sitting. He spotted them. He spotted them, and next to him Balarama was sitting. He pushed him, elbowed him, and said, "There, look there." Balarama looked there. Then he looked at Sri Krishna, and he smiled. He smiled. He smiled. Because however disguised you are, they looked like elephants in front of Mahalakshmi. They looked like fire which is hidden inside the ash. Sizzling they are in that thing. Krishna is discreetly conveyed to him. Balarama has seen. He has replied. But neither of them, but not Balarama, not Krishna, they're not foolish enough to look out. Hey, Yudhishthira! No, that they're not saying that. None of them are doing that. Quiet. They're just peacefully sitting. And nobody else, in any case, they are very well disguised. And in any case, nobody is looking at that pavilion. They are all looking at Draupadi. Who is going to look around? So they are not looking around in the direction at all. Now, these five fellows are in the game. The Yudhishthira, Bhimasena, Arjuna, Nakula, Sahadeva. And each of them is filled with desire when they are looking at Draupadi. She is Vyasa, they are all looking at her. And that stadium is set for the Swayamvara, so the fragrance is filling the air. Beautiful fragrance, flowers are raining, sounds of drum is filling the quarters, musicians are playing flute and veena and dholaki, etc. playing everywhere, and the competition starts. They obviously must be having some method by which they sequence the kings. I do not know what that was, but I would tend to think that they would have some method of doing that. It may not be very open, but it would be discreet, but there will be a way. Maybe it's just alphabetic. I have no clue. But they had some. So then the king started, one by one they came. You see, this business of stringing the bow itself is actually we have completely don't know archery now, so we don't know. So obviously the business of stringing the bow is something. So you don't keep the bow. Stringing the bow means where that shooting part of the is strung. You don't keep the bow strung all the time. When you use it, it's strung. When after you finish using it, it's unstrung. Right? So if you look at any do-it-yourself manual on archery, you will find that you should never keep it strung. Like in your family, you have a bow. Because a great-grandfather had a bow, you keep it strung for 3 generations, it's gone. I mean, it won't work. So how do you keep the string? All that. So string, etc. And there's a lot of method to it. And it requires not just tact, it's a fascinating thing. And the amount of effort that you have to put, how tight you draw it, how much effort you have to put. So there's a lot of concepts of physics, etc. there. It's called draw weight and all that. And how it depends on how strong you are, whether you are a child, whether you are an adult, whether you are this, whether you are that, etc. Different types of bows, different types of strings, different types of pressures, all of that is a very, very difficult task, and you have to do that. So there is this bow and there's a string. You have to string it, then shoot up without looking at the target and hit it. So many kings came. They had a look at it. The many kings could not even string the bow mentally, it seems. Just looking at that bow. Leave alone actually stringing. They just came and walked away. Some tried. Some tried with disastrous consequences. They simply couldn't. We're talking about big time kings out here from all over the land. All the names of Mahabharata almost was here. We had Shakuni had come. We had Jarasandha had come, Ashwathama had come, Bhoja had come, Virata king had come. All of them had come. So some tried with disastrous consequences with the heavy bow. You see, this is not mentioned there, but it is running in my mind that when such a bow is going to decide destiny, like the bow of Shiva for Rama, in the case of Rama, right? So that there is destiny in that bow. That bow is got, they're not lighter, whatever it is, there is some destiny, and even then, when they are actually doing this yagya, they must have done heavy rituals, etc. before such a Swayamvara starts. God only knows what all they have charged it with. That, right? So they have a view, like when Drupada, the father of Draupadi, would have arranged this, maybe he might have charged that bow with the fact that whom it should work for, whom it shouldn't. I have no idea. Right? Or what kind of person it should work for. And what kind, I don't know. I have no idea. But there it was, this heavy bow. Rama's bow, that bow Rama took, nobody could lift. It came on so many wheels, like a big truck. It was brought in. So many people had to bring it in. So heavy it was. And only he could lift it, but there it was. It happened. But the Upakatha goes that Sita, when she was a small baby, a small girl, she used to push it here and there. So, we don't know. So there it is. So this bow was here. And some of them, they could lift it and then they fell at disastrous consequences. Their crown is falling here, their jewel is falling down, etc. And they are panting with deep breath. By the time they are quietly going back to their seat and sitting, it's fixed, a match fixed, this is not working, etc. They are telling each other something, etc. And some of them had to be taken to hospital. They are saying, it was a bad deal. It was going on. Then, when countless kings had thus fallen, the big time kings had still not gotten up, but many kings had gone and done. Then the sequence is the way I'm telling you. The sequence is the way it's there in Vyasa Bharata, although it is related slightly differently by other different people. But I'm going to stick to the sequence in which Bharatam has been said by Vyasa. Then next, Karna stood up. He, the son of Surya, was shining brighter than fire, Agni, You're shining brighter than the moon, Chandrama is shining brighter than the sun himself. He got up and he too was raga. He was also absorbed in the attraction of Draupadi. And in that attraction, he did a pratigya. He said, I'll hit that. Karna did a pratigya, wow, that he's going to shoot that down. He's going to hit it. He got on to his feet and he walked towards the bow. And as he walked towards the bow and put his hand, the Pandavas who were there in the pavilion, they're looking at Karna walking towards the bow, majestically, shining like anything and going and picking up the bow. They said, she's gone. Draupadi is gone. Karna's done it, they said. They picked up the bow in 1 second. He picked up the bow and he was stringing it. Now there are two versions of the story. One version says he strung it. The other version says he couldn't string it. He was putting the effort to string it. The Hindi version in Gita Press Gorakhpur says he strung it, but it puts a footnote saying the other version says he didn't string it, including the Nilakanta's commentary of the Mahabharata, which is the authoritative commentary of Mahabharata, the Nilakantiya, says very clearly that he couldn't string it. You take it the way you like it. So the stringer, he could string it. One says he strung it and he had picked up the 5 arrows and he was ready to shoot. The other one says he couldn't string it, but he was about to string it. Maybe. Yeah? He couldn't yet. He was putting his effort to string it. He had picked up the bow like that and he was putting his effort to string it. And Drishtva tudam Draupadim vakyamuccai jagada naham varayami sutam. Suddenly there was a voice, a cracking voice in the stadium, and the Draupadi had spoken loudly. She says, I will not marry a charioteer. She made that announcement. He couldn't proceed. Samarshaha saprasamikshya Prasamikshya Suryam Tatyaja Karna Spuritam Dhanustat. Karna turned and looked at her. And in anger he laughed at her. Then he looked up at the sky, at the sun. Threw the bow, walked away. Now, Vyasabharatam doesn't say this, but there is a side story that she did that, she shouted that because Krishna had set her to it. But we don't know. Vyasabharatam doesn't say that. Huh? But she did shout. And he did throw the bow and he walked away in anger. See, the thing is, what a great man who is synonymous with dana and valor. Anantarav Dikshidhar in the Bharatam at this point, he says, why was this happening to him? Because he did not have Daiva Bala. Destiny or God, providence, whatever you want to call it, that he lacked, that strength, that bit was not there for him. So he takes us immediately to the battle scene when Bhishma had fallen. In the great Mahabharata war, Karna had made a vow that until Bhishma is there, he will not take part in the war. With great anger, that fight had happened between them. So he said, only after Bhishma falls, I will come, otherwise I am not. That was what Krishna wanted. So 10 days of the war, Karna didn't take part. Then Bhishma had fallen on the bed of arrows, and deep midnight, after 12 o'clock, Duryodhana had kept guards, etc. But in the night, after nobody was there, Karna had walked up to Bhishma. And you can always recognize Karna because when he comes, there is light. He glows with light, his son's son. So Bhishma from his bed of arrows knows Karna is coming. And he sees Karna and says, "Hey, come here." Karna comes and just bends down, he embraces him. He says, "Karna, I wanted to tell you something." He says, "What?" "You must be thinking that I am always against you. On the contrary, I have only love for you." And cut to short, if you want to know, you must take the war and listen to it. It's the most fascinating story in life you'll hear. That said, the war said. That said, so, and Ramdishra tells us that he told him, this problem is all because he was born without sanskara. Be that as it may, coming back here, he had, see, beauty of Bharatam, I am telling you, listen to the war as well, is that we know Bharata Shravanam. What is the glory of Bharatam and what is the glory of listening to Bharatam? It is impossible. It is impossible to describe the greatness of this epic and the greatness of listening to it. It is so much easier to play a game of cards. So much easier to spend money on a holiday, so much easier to do many things. But to come and listen for 45 minutes, 50 minutes or 1 hour to Bharatam, it may be a project. And not everybody it's possible that they will come and do that. It is not possible. For that you need Daiva Balam. So coming back here, Karna had dropped that bow and walked away. Then walked up Chedi Raja, the powerful Shishupala, who was as powerful, Vyasa says, as Yamaraja himself. He came and he lifted the bow and he tried to string it. And when he tried to string it, the string broke from his hand, so to say, and in a great embarrassment, he fell down, he fell on his knees. He got up and he walked away. Next came Jarasandha. Jarasandha has defeated Krishna multiple times. He is the one who gave the name of Ranchod to Krishna. He who ran away from the battlefield. Who shifted his capital from Mathura to Dwarka because of Jarasandha. As Jarasandha came, he walked up to the bow. He stood like a mountain next to it. Like a mountain, Ivachala, still he stood. He picked up the bow. And the same fate happened to him as happened to Shishupala. Jarasandha, Vyasa says, didn't wait for further performance of others. He left for his kingdom. Then came the Mahavira, Mahabali, Madraraja, Shalya. He too was unsuccessful. He too had to fall on his knees. Then got up Dhritarashtraputra Mahabali Duryodhana, the scorcher of foes. He got up from the middle of his brothers. You look glorious, says Vyasa. The Lakshana of every Lakshana of a king being visible in him, in his body. Looking fantastic. He looked very proud. He looked absolutely confident. Absolutely confident. His heart was given to Draupadi. It's full of Draupadi. And like a lion, he strode towards the bow. He lifted the bow. He looked like Indra. He lifted the bow. He drew the string right up to the end. He was just about to string it just a mustard distance before he was going to finish the job. It snapped and came right through his fingers and cut his fingers badly. He, in that impact of whootum that it came out of his fist, he fell down. He fell down. Absolutely embarrassed. Totally not even looking towards Draupadi, I'm sure. Full of shame, he came back to his seat. Now, many kings decided that, this way it's not going to be their day either. So quietly, many of them decided that we go. Before tonight I have to reach home. If I don't go by 8 o'clock kind of thing. So quietly, without looking towards the bow itself, they walked out. Many of them just kind of looking towards the ground, as if getting a phone call kind of people walk, no? Hello, hello, and all that. They're leaving, but they'll make some. So like that they do that. So they're looking at, eyes down, they started walking off. Suddenly, now, then when that nothing, no king was able to do it, then there was somebody getting up from the pavilion of the Brahmanas. One fellow was getting up. There was a minor commotion. Somebody is getting up there. Somebody is getting up there. Arjuna had stood up. And it was looking as if people can stand up. Nobody stops anybody from standing up. But it looked as if he wanted to take part. The way he was standing up and looking towards that bow, anybody could it could be made out that it seems that he also wants to try his hand to contest. And when he stood up, he's as tall as Indra's bow. He's a tall man. And he started walking towards the bow. And when he started walking towards the bow, the pavilion with all the Vaidikas there, they slowly realized that one of us guys is going there. They started clapping. Boy, they said, Arey, one Brahmana is going there. Arey. But then immediately they all started chatting, chat, etc. Now meanwhile, when he had gotten up and he was stepping towards the bow, Krishna pressed Balrama's hand again. And Arjuna going. And Balrama is happily smiling is sitting. So Brahmanas are clapping, etc. Then some Vaidikas are talking to each other. What is this fellow doing? Why is he going? No king has been able to do anything. No Kshatriya has been able to do anything. One very novice. What will he do? He will not only make a fool of himself, he'll bring a bad name to the whole community and all that is a problem. He'll make a mess of it and we'll be the laughing stock of forever to come. Everybody laugh. Once one idiot also came from there. Something they'll say, all of that, they'll big problem. They're shouting. This is what happens and all that. Who is this fellow and all? He'll bring ridicule and all that. We'll become laughing stock. Others said, no. What is there? We'll cheer him. No, see. What is it that power of tapas cannot accomplish? They are telling each other, some of them. What is it? Parashurama was not there. Who could stand in front of Parashurama? Agastya was there. Agastya could drink the whole ocean. Tapas Shakti. So let us all add our tapas to his and bless him with victory. Well, bless him with victory. They're all talking like that. So a lot of chatter is going on in that pavilion. The king's pavilion still doesn't know what is happening. Some fellow Brahmana is coming. Evam tesham vilapatam vipranam vividhagirah Arjuno dhanusho bhyashe tasyo giririvachalah. So while this chatter was going on among the Vipras, Arjuna came and stood next to the bow, again, like Shalya did, like a mountain. He stood still. Giririva Achala, like an Achala hill. Like Arunachala he stood. Then, Satadhanu parikramya pradakshinamata karot pranamya shirasa devam ishanam varadam prabhum krishnam cha manasa kritva jagrihe charjunu dhanu. He then did a parikrama of that bow. Then with his head bowed, he prayed to Lord Shiva. Kotyo brahmatyanam agamyatam koteyo sadhya pralayamayati mahadeveti kirtanat. Even if 1 crore brahmatyas has done, 1 crore wrong deeds have been done, by the grace of Mahadeva, it can be destroyed. He prayed to Lord Shiva and then Krishnam cha manasa kritva. He kept Krishna in his heart. Picked up the bow. Only he prayed to God among all the kings. There's nobody called for Daivanugraham at all. He did. He not only did that, he protection of the bow. Other kings are there. Rukma, Suneta, Vakra, Karna, Duryodhana, Shalya, Shishupala, Jarasandha, Neela, Shalva. All the terrific kings were tried and failed. That bow which none of these kings could even do anything with that, the greatest of heroes, Arjuna, equal in prowess to Mahavishnu, says Vyasa. In a blink of an eye, he had strung the bow, he had taken the 5 arrows and most casually shot, pat, through the eye of that thing. Before anybody could realize that the fish, it had gone through, each of them had gone through the eye of the fish, hit the eye of the fish above and made that, cut that into multiple pieces, and all of them, through the gap in that fish, it all fell down. He crashed that target down. All this happened in the blink of an eye. And the celestials in the sky started cheering. It started raining flowers, and this pavilion of these Vaidikas had gone berserk. Oh boy, they were saying, what has happened? The history had been seen, etc. They were all, they were all their uttari and the cloth they have on top, they had all taken it out and were like waving it around like a victory flag, Vijay Dhwaja of Arjuna. They were all, the kings were all stunned to silence, speechless. And then slowly, anger, ha, they started shouting. Then meanwhile, above, the other music had started, horns were blowing, bards were singing. Drupada was overjoyed beyond measure. Whatever it is, when daughter's wedding has got fixed, he was overjoyed beyond measure. And these other 4 brothers, Yudhishthira, Nakula, Bhima and Sahadeva, they sprang and they went, like in the matches when all the team will run into the center of the ground from the pavilion, they all had hit the winning run. So like these 4 brothers are running towards the center, etc. And Drupada and Draupadi holding the Jayamala in her hand, beautiful golden Jayamala which had white flowers as well, with a hint of a happy smile. She went near Kunti's son Arjuna. Now, a beautiful slokam, Vyasa says, Sabhyastarupani Satyastarupapi naveva nityam vinapihasam hasativa kanya mahadritepi skalativa bhavaihi vacha vina vyahritiva drishtya. Now, all these kings, everybody had been seeing her only for the last so many hours of this thing was going on. They had all seen her again and again. But now, when she was walking towards Arjuna with the Jayamala in her hand, even though they had seen her again and again, she looked new. The word used, ever new. Naveva nityam. Totally new. And although she was not smiling, it looked as if she was smiling. Although Although she had not consumed liquor or anything, it looked as if she was tipsy. She was walking like one intoxicated. Although she was not speaking, she was absolutely silent. But it looked as if her eyes were doing the talking to Arjuna. Ignoring all the assembled kings, she walked right to him and she put that garland around that Brahmana's neck and stood with all shyness and humility next to him. She was looking like Shachi with Indra, like Swaha with Agni, like Lakshmi with Mahavishnu, like Usha with Surya, says Vyasa, like Rati with Kamadeva, like the mountain girl, Giriraj Kumari Uma to Maheshwara, when she had put that garland, like that. Like Videha Rajanandani, Sita had put the garland to Rama, like Damayanti to the greatest of kings, Nala. In like manner did Draupadi choose Arjuna. Sri Ratna, he calls her. Arjuna started walking out of the Swayamvara stadium. And she walking with him. The India. No second thought. Not even turned to his father and said, nothing. Walked out with him. And, the Brahmana, that pavilion, all of them come with surrounding Arjuna. They're all walking out, etc. with him. Okay. All the kings are thinking, what is happening? They're hopping mad, they're shouting, this bloody thing. This Drupad fellow, this is insult. This is insult for all of us, each one of us. Now they're all getting together. All of us have been insulted. He cannot give his daughter in marriage to a Brahmana. How can he do that? She's a princess. He cannot do that. Can you believe it? It's like they are shouting, it's like growing a tree till it gives fruits and then cutting it suddenly. He seems to think that we are all now amounting to nothing. All of us kings have come busy, we have come here. Then they decided that there's no point, going around messing with this Brahmana fellow, etc. The Drupada, we should kill him. We have to kill him on the spot. They decide we have to kill him, son of a gun. He invited us all, he welcomed us, he gave us nice places to stay and feast, food, etc. And just to insult us. At the end of it all, he insulted us. We are all, kya kami hai? Godlike kings. We are all godlike kings. No, not even one of us measures to that girl's expectation, or what nonsense is this? Anyway, what right does a Brahmana have to participate in the Swayamvara? It's only meant for Kshatriyas. Look at any Dharma Shastra. It's only Kshatriyas a girl and a Kshatriya man can participate in a Swayamvara. They are shouting all Shastras they're reading now. Law points. Now, if this girl doesn't consider any one of us to be fit for her husband, let us throw her also into the fire. We'll throw her also into the fire and let's go home. The kings and all, they started attack. They ganged up to attack Drupada first. Drupada ran. I mean, so many of them trying to attack him. It's not that he had to run, and he went straight running towards the Brahmana enclosure, and he took Sharana of them, saying, you must, what do I do, etc. Now, Bhima and Arjuna were there. They see Drupada is coming and asking for Sharanam. And they know that, he is this girl's father also. So they have to do something. So, it's not a problem. So he's asking. So Bhima, though, it doesn't take much time to decide. He pulled a tree out and he just firstly rubbed it off, clean off all its, leaves, it seems. Just a nice big tree. He just took it and stood turning towards these kings who were running towards him. Arjuna saw a younger elder brother doing like that. He also felt this bow that had been used for the competition, he picked it up. Okay, he picked it up. He's got all kinds of celestial weapons. He can call any weapon. He's a master. Dronas. He doesn't need, carry a briefcase of arrows. He doesn't need all that. And then, seeing that Arjuna now standing with the bow and Bhima standing with the tree, Sri Krishna, Vyasa says, he whose intellect and conduct is beyond comprehension. Nobody can understand him. That's Sri Krishna. Seeing Bhima and Arjuna told Balarama, that person who walks like a lion and and he's pulling a bow as tall as a tala. Tala means it is as tall from the toe of his foot to the up. If he lifts his hand up to that, it's that length. It's a long bow that he's carrying. That is our Arjuna. He's Arjun. There needs no second thought about this because Balarama may have decided to jump in also. He said, no, not needed, not needed. That is Arjuna. That is Arjuna. Just as it is true that I am Vasudeva, it is true that that is Arjuna. And this great man who has uprooted the trees, Bhimasena, there is no one else on earth who could have done what he has done. And that person, that other person with them, with big lotus eyes, who is slim and who seems so humble and is so fair in looks, who's got a lion gait, who's got a lovely long nose, that is Yudhishthira. And those two with them who are looking like two young Kartikeyas, like Murugan, like Skanda, those two twins, they are the Ashwini Putras, Nakula and Sahadeva. I had heard that the Pandavas had escaped from the Lakshagraha. Now, so he's telling all this to Balarama and the kings are all fighting with Arjuna. They started to fight. Now they got to fight. Now this guy is standing with a bow and that guy is standing with a tree. They started fighting. And Krishna said to Balarama, brother, don't be worried. Relax. Relax. Even if countless devas and rakshasas assemble, Arjuna is capable of defeating them all by his own hand. Know that he is the younger brother of Bhimasena. What to say of these human tin pot kings who are in front of him? If at all he needs our help, 5 minutes. If at all he needs our help, we can then help him. But brother, it's my firm belief, he'll take care of it. He doesn't need us. Balarama, white as a cloud he was, his skin, his color is, he was, he told his brother, I'm so happy, etc. And meanwhile, Vaishampayana tells Janamedaya that the Brahmanas had helped you, trying to tell Arjuna that, we'll help you and all that, don't be afraid, we are there with you and all that. So he told him, I don't worry, I'll stop this. You please sit down peacefully. I'll stop all these fellows right in their tracks, freeze them on the spot, just like we can freeze a snake by the mantra. Like that I'll freeze them. I'll freeze them on the spot, just as etc. etc. Saying this, he picked up the very bow that was used. He was there, and the fight began. We'll conclude this. It'll take 5-10 minutes. We'll conclude this. Duryodhana was there in the fight. Yes, and he loved the fight. He was with like utmost ease he joined the fight. He didn't know who these fellows were. With utmost ease he joined the fight. But then Arjuna was not looking at Duryodhana for whatever reason. He went for Karna. He started attacking Karna. He started attacking Karna with his arrows, and Karna looked at him, who is attacking me? And they started, a great battle was there. Every arrow was met with arrow, every astra was met with astra. A volley of arrows were cut down by Karna, who cut him. Karna had found a decent match to fight. He was enjoying his fight, cutting down Arjuna's arrows midair. And then he shouted at him, hey Brahmana, I shouted at him. Hey Brahmana, I am happy with the prowess of your arm. You betray no signs of being tired at all. Astra after astra you have been shooting. And every one of them seems to be absolutely under your control. I am very pleased to see you. O crest jewel of the twice born, tell me, are you the personification of Dhanurveda? Are you Parashurama? Who are you? Are you Indra? Or are you by any chance Bhagavan Vishnu himself? I think you must be one of these and you have taken the disguise of a Brahmana. For in a war, who else can face me? Who can face me? Except perhaps Parashurama, and except perhaps the son of Pandu, Arjuna. Who are you? Kastvam Tata Arjuna Vipro Pinaki Swayameva. Are you Shiva? He said, Karna. Aham Karno Dvijashreshta. I am a Brahmana. Nasmi karna dhanurvedo. I am not Dhanurveda. I am not Parashurama. I am a Brahmana. I know the art of war. I know all the weapons. And my weapon is Brahmam. Brahme paurandre chastre nitthito Gurushasanat. By the teachings of my Guru, the power of Brahma, Brahmic power is mine. Sthitosmi adya rane jetum tvam vai veera sthiro bhava. Stand still, we shall fight, says Arjuna. Hearing him speak thus, Karna decided that Brahma Tejas was not defeatable. And he withdrew from the war. Brahmam Tejas tada jayyam manyamano maharatha. Like Vishwamitra had decided against Vasishtha. Digbalam Kshatriya balam Brahma Tejo balam balam. When every weapon of his was stopped by Vasishtha with his just a stick, danda. Ekena Brahmadandena, he had stopped him. All that was done, and so back to Karna had walked away. But meanwhile, Shalya and Bhimasena had a terrific fight. They were greatest of fighters, each of them. His uncle and nephew are fighting. Big fight, dragging. Finally, Bhimasena caught hold of him and dragged him here and there, etc. and picked him up in the air and threw him, smashed him on the ground. But wonder, says Vyasa, the way he threw him on the ground, he didn't kill him. His own uncle. He cannot kill him. So he ensured that he didn't kill him, but he smashed him on the ground. And all the kings were now, they couldn't do anything. Karna had lost, and they are all surrounding. And then who could they be? Who could they be? They are all shouting. Could this be Drona? Could this be Drona? They are asking. Could this be Parashurama? They are all shouting at each other. And Krishna is now elbowing his way inside that king's crowd, and he takes charge of the situation among the kings. And he says, "How does it matter who these are?" No. They say, no. Who can take on Duryodhana? Who is it who took on Shalya here? Other than Balarama and Bhimasena, nobody can do wrestling with Shalya. Who is this? Who could these be? They are all shouting. And Krishna told them, doesn't matter who they are. They have won in fair rules. They have won the hand of Draupadi. Okay? And by dharma they have won lawful means. So we must let them go in peace. You may all return now. There's no reason for you to fight. They won the hand of Draupadi in proper manner, in fair manner. The kings, they all went to their respective places. Somehow the Pandavas got through the crowd, and Arjuna and Draupadi were in. Arjuna and Bhimasena were in front. Draupadi was looking behind. Yudhishthira and the other brothers had also started. They all looked like the beautiful. They looked so good. And with now Draupadi with them, they looked like the full moon and the sun along with the dark rain cloud. And they started for the potter's house where Kunti was waiting, because she was waiting for them to bring Bhiksha, Baba. Every morning they had to go and collect Bhiksha and come. So she was waiting for that. They were late and she was worried. Naturally, she's a mother. She was worried that they might have been recognized and they might have been killed. Can anything have happened to them? Can Vyasa's blessings have gone wrong? All thoughts are going on in her mind, right, left and center. And she was wondering, could some Rakshasa have killed them? She was worried. The sky was dark with dense clouds. People were all the people had gone home. It was the third part of the day. It was very quiet in Arjuna. And others, etc., came back to the potter's house. On that note, we'll end today. Har Namah Parvati Pate Janaki Kanta Smaranam Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Vetrivel Muruganukku Shri Sadguru Swamina Shri Anjaneya Swamina